In 1969, the United States passed laws that enabled the first use of the dress codes after several students wore black armbands in a planned protest against the Vietnam War. These laws allowed schools to mandate what clothes they deemed appropriate in a school setting, and this limitation of self-expression eventually served as a mechanism by which these social institutions reinforced gender stereotypes. Many schools claim that dress codes keep man-identifying students focused on their education because dress codes force women-identifying students to keep the so-called distracting parts of their bodies covered. In striving to limit the expression of self through clothing, schools are sending a clear message. Women are highly sexualized, and it falls to the responsibility of girls to regulate what they wear in order to even remotely be taken seriously. It is mandated that girls dress modestly so that teachers and classmates won't be distracted. The concept of young children being made aware of the fact that even at such a young age, they need to ensure that they make those around them comfortable rather than being accepted for how they choose to clothe themselves is saddening.
These notions of value being equated to one's gender, beauty, and good looks are also represented in popular media, indoctrinating within each generation a set of discriminatory gender stereotypes and roles that are harmful to young audiences and their understanding of gender identity, expression, and expectations.
Released in 1978, Paramount Pictures' Grease depicts teenage Sandy, played by Olivia Newton-John, appeasing to the male fantasy to secure a boyfriend in her transformation from outfits that assist her in authentically expressing herself to a black off-shoulder top, skin-tight pants, and red lipstick, all of which allow her to catch the attention of the man she pursues. Sandy is not appreciated, wanted, or taken seriously by the people around her until she wears clothing that they consider to be alluring and sexual.
Released later that same year, Superman exhibits Clark Kent, played by Christopher Reeve, only being recognized by his romantic interest Lois Lane when he takes the form of Superman and wears tight clothing that accentuates his muscular build. This narrative introduces a second impact of, and reason for, dress codes that typically affects the man-identifying members of society. The epitome of masculinity is the athlete, he who is strong and womanizing and dresses so. To receive the appreciation of Lois Lane, Clark Kent loses his ability to express himself through the clothing he initially decided to wear for himself.
The concept of physical transformation to intentionally invite the attention and sexualization of others for us was first introduced in Disney's Aladdin, which portrays the character of Jasmine losing her sleeves and placing her hair in a high ponytail to fit Prince Jafar's wishes for her appearance. Society perpetuates the idea that looking a certain way as a woman or man will appeal to those around you through the narratives it chooses to tell, and these stories significantly impacted our senses of self as young people navigating a sexist and gender-obsessed society. At my middle school, the Hamlin School for Girls, we wore a strict uniform. No skirt shorter than our fingertips, white socks, athletic tennis shoes, and iron ties. We hardly had free dress days, but when we did, even then did our dress code apply. This rule taught me that even as a young girl, I needed to be wary of how I presented myself with what I wore. All these rules were designed to keep modesty, which was a drastic step to take when in a school filled with young children. My middle school was marking us as provocative. One rule that always stood out to us middle and lower schoolers was that leggings were banned. Never was the reason ever explicitly told to us, but we understood that us children no older than 13 were being objectified for wearing tight-fitting pants. Rumors circulated around, though, that the rule was made because male teachers were uncomfortable with us wearing leggings. We understood that it meant people were looking at us and were uncomfortable with us wearing clothing that was very form-fitting, but it too made us students uncomfortable with the fact that grown men were distracted by our comfortable free dress outfits. Instead of the school dealing with the teacher's commentary in a different way, it fell to us as students to be mindful of what we wore. While the dress code may have the intent of keeping individuals safe, the idea of needing to wear certain things, even as a child, to avoid the unwanted attention of our adult teachers is not something that reflects well on our society and what it teaches to young, impressionable children. In Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance, he claims that we pass for what we are, implying that if enough of these opinions about how women need to be careful, that their bodies can be a double-edged sword, are ingrained into children at a young age, then they will begin to mirror society's standards. Our opinions turn into a way of life, and so, using Emerson's idea of passing for what you are, believing to be one thing in turn causes society to view you that way. Women believing that they can inevitably only be sexualized causes a begrudging embrace of that idea, making them present themselves more often than not in a way that society deems acceptable.
Outside of concrete social institutions, however, dress codes remained. As a tween, the attire I saw on clothing store racks constantly reminded me of what others thought it meant to be a man, something I was not. And for this reason, the outfits I and many others found ourselves in seemed to be an overcompensation rather than an expression of self. As a proud actor, I was not an all-star, contrary to my t-shirt, but somehow I still put it on routinely as if it was one of my shows, playing the part of the athlete, playing with those around me. In giving clothing and gender meaning, society gave me the opportunity to give myself meaning to others in the context of clothing and gender. If wearing a shirt that says All-Star gave others the idea that I was an athlete, a man, then I was willing to put on that performance for them. But not for long. Because when you put on that hegemonically masculine outfit, you may gain the respect of society, but you lose yourself. And in a continuation of the Emersonian metaphor first presented by Ellie, I offer his idea that I will stand here for humanity, and though I would make it kind, I would make it true. Every true man requires infinite spaces and numbers and time to fully accomplish his design. I'm a man as much as I am not an athlete. That is my truth. And I have found no authenticity, no liberation in hegemony. And though I would rather be a man sculpted from the cookie cutter that society constructed far before the birth of myself, or my father, or my future son, I cannot risk the loss of myself, my truth. These are all that we have. And the rest of the story of myself and my father and my future son will be this tale of grappling with something as futile and superfluous yet necessary as the clothes we wear to veil ourselves and our truths. And when I grew my hair long and wore pink in the 5th grade, I gained my truth, myself, and lost the respect of society. And when I walked away from the conversation in which I was misgendered, in which I lost my truth, myself, my manhood, it was to the nearby Nike store. And with my father, I picked out a new hegemonically masculine outfit to wear for society. To put on every day as a costume that enables me to perform, to deceive, to not be true to myself, but true to society. And I wonder if when the same thing happens to my son, I will stand there watching with society as he selects the most hegemonically masculine outfit for himself. I wonder if I will stand there wondering, as I am today, if it is the neon yellow shirt that makes him a man, or if it is the fact that he chooses to wear one. I wonder if it is even a choice for him at all. I wonder if it was ever a choice for his father, for my father, for every boy that purchased the same all-star shirt that made me a man. And whether the pink I wore that day was passed on to a cousin, to Goodwill, to my sister, a woman, I cannot remember. But I can remember the feeling of watching my father swipe his credit card at the register. The feeling of finally getting to be a man again, of peeling off my rose-colored truth and putting on a show for everyone around me. The feeling of stepping back into the cookie cutter and letting society and its history, that of my father, myself, and my son, take its course. The dress code for men was and is not explicitly written in any book, but instead known by society. In the minds of boys and men, young and old, in conversations in Nike stores. When I am a father, I can only hope that my son will not ask for help into the cookie cutter, in the perpetuation of society's largely unspoken dress code, in the act of being kind instead of true. When I am a father, I can only hope that I will have the courage to be authentic, to be free, to be myself in my very own design. And this future cannot be realized if such a dress code remains. Society as we know it would benefit from the abolition and abandonment of dress codes.
These expectations and rules prevent individuals from letting their true selves flourish and are just another form in which members of society are forced to conform, preventing these people from finding their own path and place in life to ultimately transcend. When girls cannot choose to wear something as innocent as leggings without facing sexualization and objectification from men, it falls to schools to hire staff that can appropriately tolerate outfits worn by minors. It falls to men to understand that any form of clothing cannot and should not be considered scandalous, sensual, an invitation to objectify and sexualize. It falls to society to ensure that we do not allow our notions of clothing to serve the stereotypes we associate with gender. Need a girl encounter sexualization and objectification in a pair of leggings, in her truthful self-expression?
Need a boy encounter affirmation of gender in a shirt that says All-Star? In a lie?